Well, like, the truth, like, I mean, we've said this before about profitability, is that back in the day, CrossFit gyms were afraid of talking about money. Then you have, most recently, people are okay about talking about money now. They're okay. They're not like afraid to talk about money, but they're just not making money. And so then all of a sudden they don't make that much money, and so they start looking for different avenues to create revenue or whatever. Or maybe they don't even do that. Maybe they don't not even aware of that, right? But it's like, dude, people need to make sure that their brick and mortar location can back into the numbers. Like that's the biggest thing. Like yesterday I was talking to a gentleman here in Mexico, and he's charging $50 a month. And it's perfectly fine if he wants to charge $50 a month. That's perfectly fine if it builds into his model, right? Based on how much does he pay for rent, how much is his overheads, how much money does he want to make, how many people can he accommodate per class, how many coaches he need, etc. If the model works, then that's great. But something tells me for $50 a month, the model just won't work.
Right. It's a hard model to sustain over a long period of time, and to assume that he's going to be able to generate the kind of personal income he'll want, charging members $50 a month.
Yeah, exactly. And eventually, what you'll have is like we got to start calling it something like where you just get to critical mass, but you're still not making any money. Like, is it like can we call it like not skinny fat? That doesn't really make sense. Like, it looks skinny fat. Okay,
fat.
It looks cool. like like
You're skinny fat. You look good in clothes, but once you strip it down to the bare bones and get it naked, bro.
There ain't no tone there. There ain't no tone there.
Ain't no tone. You ain't defined.
So I'm not trying to have a skinny fat company, right? I'm trying to have because I don't want to look good on the outside.
You're skinny on profits. You're fat on operations.
Well, yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking at this gym and it looks like it's doing really well, right? Just like you look at some girl, guy, whatever, and they're skinny. But then all of a sudden, so you're looking at it, you're like, okay, there's 100 members coming in, 200 members, 300 members. Dude, these guys are crushing it, right? But then the shirt comes off, and you're like, oh, well, actually, each one only pays $50 a month, so our total revenue is not even equal to salaries plus rent expense. And so now we've hit we've hit our mass, and we're still not making any money.
Right. You see full classes, but at the end of the month, you still see an empty bank account.
Yeah.
Full classes, empty bank account.
I'm not trying to be that skinny fat gym.
You don't be that skinny fat jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an important point, man. I mean, we touch on that in our seminars, but that's an important point, is that whole backing into the business model. As opposed to just saying, well, I want to make $250,000 a year. I don't need to be a multimillionaire, but I want to make $100,000 a year. My goal is to make $100,000 a year. And you go, okay, well, good, that's a good start. And they say, so I'm going to open up a gym at 1,600 square feet to start, because and then I'm going to do this and do that. And I'm going to charge $90 a month. You're like, whoa, Tiger, hold on a second.
Well, but why? Just explain to me why you want to charge $90 a month.
And then how's that going to grow? Because at $90 a month, once you get critical mass, like you say, you're still skinny fat. You might be packed and full, but you're still maybe either losing money or you're not making the kind of money you want.
Yeah.
And now you have to go into an extensive rebuild program or expansion program to try to get into those numbers.
And really what we're talking about doesn't just relate to CrossFit gyms. It relates to any, service-based, membership-based, like what we do, only it could be other variations of it, right? We've talked about this. At NorCal, we don't just offer CrossFit anymore. We have multiple offerings. So we have NC Fit, we have yoga, we have spin, now we actually just started having childcare, whatever. And they're all just different services at the end of the day. And in a service-based environment, you can't just rely on having a shitload of members, because then your service goes down. And so it's like, you look at this hotel we're at, right? This hotel has 90 rooms, and so they need to make sure their price point stays at a proper level so that they don't over-occupy it and then not be able to make the service that you're looking for, which is, you know what I mean? And whereas other models would be, you go to some giant hotel, they have 1,000 rooms, the service is mediocre at best, but you don't pay the same price point. And what we're trying to build is a higher price, higher quality environment versus lower price, lower quality environment.
That's right. Because if you have a quality level of service, if you focus on the level of quality of your service, and you focus on the level of quality of your product, you will then have that A-rated structure that you're looking for, right? And then as long as you have the importance, like if you looked at your A-rated service, you need to have great personnel. You have to have a great team. Because your services outside of your programs could be shoddy. You could have all these great services. A lot of these gyms try to go out there and create a bunch of different stuff. They're always trying to fight for what the next popular program is, but their service of that program or product is shot.
That's right.
Their coaching staff is weak. They don't really understand the product. They don't understand the culture, core values of it. And so there's just this like missed message.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? I mean, the longer I've been in this, and now this is this is our 8th year. The more I realize it just comes down to people. It just comes down to who you have. You know, at this resort we're at, I mean, like you look here, and it's the guys have been here 4 to 5 years. The retention's been good, and the reason for it is that they probably treat their employees right, they pay them properly, and they give them trajectory in the company. And on that note, it's like I think a lot of CrossFit gyms and maybe other functional fitness gyms, I mean, not just CrossFit, they probably don't look at it in terms of a business. They look at it in terms of just like a gym, right? And people want to feel like they have trajectory in the company. They want to feel like there's something they're working towards, and if they don't feel that, they look for it somewhere else, or they try and go do their own thing, or whatever happens. And so I think one of the things that's made NorCal successful, and Brick too, and I'd encourage other people to do, is build trajectory for your employees and constantly be asking them, what are you guys looking for? What do you want, right? Because a long time ago, I used to think that everybody was like just passionate about CrossFit. And then I thought everybody wanted more money. But money is not the driver for everybody. And when you try and motivate people with money and they're not money motivated people, it just comes off really shitty. And that happened to us a little bit ago. And so I think one of the things that I would recommend, and what I've been trying to do, is just sit down with different people and just ask them like, hey, how's it going? What can we do better? What are you looking for? Things like that. And that goes a long way. You know that.
Yeah, that's right. Because for some people, outside of financial growth, personal growth is equally as valuable or more important to them.
Right.
Right? And they need to be able to see that either through growth, as you say, trajectory in the company, or just mentorship, guidance, growth through maturity of time in the business, as opposed to just being stagnant. Also, many of them, outside of that, beyond just finances, really just want to be heard.
Yeah, they just want to know
If they're carrying the banner of your company and your brand as strongly and as passionately as you are, and sometimes we don't believe they are because in that ownership position you feel like you're carrying all stress, but we fail to recognize that they don't necessarily always have to be attached to the bills at the end of the month to carry the kind of passion that we do. If they're good people, they may have really delved into this as much as we have. And if they're carrying that, they want to know that they're rewarded, and it doesn't always have to be by money.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these gyms that I'm seeing are starting to have troubles right now, is that they have, like, the owner-operator is getting burnt out. They're coaching, you know, I don't know, 30, 40 classes a week, right? Because they don't either think they could afford, or they really can't afford to have coaches. But it's this huge catch-22. And the catch-22 is this. So you have an owner-operator who's coaching 30, 40 classes a week. They're showing up in the morning. They're burnt out by the end of the day. They're offering mediocre classes from, 2 p.m. on, right? Because before they're crushing it. After that, they're just burnt out. But then they say to themselves, wow, I don't have any money to pay assistant coaches, right? But what they don't ever realize is that by paying someone, sometimes you need to pay someone to make some more, right? Because now, if they're coaching classes all day, every day, who's out there trying to grow the business, trying to go knock on doors, going to try and answer emails, answer phone calls? I mean, for Christ's sake, I call CrossFit gyms all the time. I never get
That's right. Or there's nobody even answers, let alone a return call, or if they just take a message and you never hear back from somebody.
Right. And so owners need to put themselves in this position where, and I know there's a lot of them out there. So if you're out there, here's something to think about. You're an owner, you're getting burnt out.
By the way, in Hollywood, what Jay's doing right now is called breaking the fourth wall. So he's going right to the audience on this one, guys.
Fourth
Serious.
wall. So here's the way it looks. You're about a year in your affiliate. Things are okay. You're probably breaking even, making a little bit of money, right? But you're the owner operator. You're probably bringing in somewhere around, you think, $40,000 to $60,000 a year, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But you're working 40, 50 hours a week in the gym, right? And you're coaching a lot of classes. You're not prepared to invest in another coach, or you have coaches that are not getting paid, but they're doing trade outs for free memberships, right?
Yeah.
They're getting trade outs for free memberships. Well, what do you get for free memberships? You get free coaching, which is not always the best quality, right? You always get what you pay for. And so if you're in this position as an owner, you need to ask yourself, okay, do I truly understand my financials? Do I really get how much money's coming in the door versus how much money's coming out? And if the answer is yes, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what can I actually afford to spend on a coach? And yes, my bottom line for me may take a hit for a couple of months, but I guarantee you that in the long run, your business will be more sustainable. The biggest problem we're seeing right now is that affiliate owners are getting burnt out and they're not generating the type of revenue that they think they were going to make when they open this thing up. Well, they can if they do it the right way, but they need to take a step back, recognize their financials, hire coaches that are good. And to get good coaches, you need to pay them reasonable salaries. And is it going to suck? Yeah, it might suck in the beginning because you're spending more money. But guess what that's going to allow you to do? That's going to allow you to get out of the gym, answer the phone, answer emails, and build your business. Because you can't necessarily build your business that well if you're always inside your business. You can service people really well, but so can another coach. Then you could be like the mayor, but you're out there trying to grow the community from outside in.
Yeah, touch on some good points. I think the way to even simplify that more for affiliates is to kind of relate it to the idea of their own programming and in training. Is most affiliates, apologize if I hurt anyone's feelings, but I care enough not to care. Is that most affiliates will spend hours and hours, let's say, programming their own exercise, their own activities, things that make them feel good, whatever they need to do, right? They open up the gym, they want to be involved, and some of them do a really great job of integrating with the community, whatever it might be. But it would be just as, I should say, it would be even more important and more integral part of what they're doing if they spent that kind of time creating the process and systems for themselves in place of what that would look like. So if they're at X dollars of profitability, they know it's now time to step back X hours a week off the floor. If they're at X dollars or shall I say, if they're at X numbers of members, that's how they know when to add another class.
Right.
And these are just simple data points that they can use to track. So it's not a guessing game. Oh, there's 9 people every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. We should open up at 10 a.m. Well, maybe that doesn't make sense financially because you've just taken on another class. You add on this many more expenses. You actually pull away, as you say, like an affiliate owner, now you've just added another class for yourself. But at what point is the value there to add a coach into that so that you aren't the one that's constantly bearing the load internally in the gym, because now you're just focused 100% inside the business, and you no longer can work on the business.
Right.
Right? Because you're just glued into that. And so one of the things, especially as we're coming towards the end of the year, a huge tip that we can give, and I know you do a lot of this, and we've been really lucky to have great people around us, is to help us create those hot points, those touch points where we say, okay, well, we hit this marker, that means that we add 6 more hours at the front desk. Or we hit this marker, it means we do this. We've now gotten to here, so now when we got to here, we said we would do this.
Right.
So let's do it.
And it's built in.
It's just a built-in process that you can follow.
I like to think about like a roadmap. So when I coach for years, I believe that a good coach always has a roadmap, and then they use that roadmap and they adjust accordingly. So we think about it like, remember MapQuest? Remember MapQuest?
Yeah.
Type in, all right, I'm in San Jose, California. I want to go to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Here's my directions. It's going to be shady through some spots, but we can get there. And, look at it like business, right? You know where you're at today. You have an idea of hopefully where you want to go. You have a concept of, okay, this year's goal, this 6 months goal, this whatever's goal is here. And then you set milestones along the way. Turn left here, turn right here if you're reading MapQuest. And I think a lot of affiliate owners just unfortunately don't have that. And I know for us, we do constant thinking about, okay, what's the next step for this year? What's the next step for this quarter? What are our goals for this quarter, this month, this year, etc.? And you could break it down in a macro or micro state like what you're saying, right? And I think if affiliate owners just took time on a Sunday when their gym is not very crowded, they sat back, drank a cup of coffee and said, okay, let me sketch out what am I looking for the business and how do I think I'm going to get there? But unless you ask yourself these questions, no one ever starts putting on paper and starts analyzing, wow, is that really what I want to be doing? Is that really going to get me where I want to be? I think that's a good point you're saying. It's just like programming, just like anything, there's got to be a template or a plan to go off of, right? We talk about programming having variance to it, but it's not just random, right? And so yes, there's going to be some variance in what you're doing in business. Sometimes things are not going to go perfectly, but it's not random. You have a concept, you have a direction you're following, and things are going to come and go. but you need to adjust to it, but you still know where the general path is going, just like programming.
Yeah.
You know you want to get GPP.
That's right. Yeah, you know, like if you reflect.
Feel me?
You got.
You want to ask that guy for some coffee? Hi.
Hey.
All right.
Huh? Who got a blow around
Just
here to get
ask
some
for
coffee?
Just get a big
Huh?
jug.
Can I get something?
Yeah, we're gonna get a big
Huh?
jug.
Oh, okay.
We got a blow right here.
we got to do that, huh? So, just to have on camera, because I think it's a good point too for people to hear, is we've spent a shit ton of time together, you and I, and we've spent quite a bit of time, certainly in close proximity this trip, where we've been together, surrounded by either leisure and luxury items, right? Super fortunate. But if you reflect back on the last couple of days, what's interesting is we've both competitive style athletes, right? You certainly, your credibility in the competitive world speaks for itself. So you look at this, this level of two people who came through this sport competitively.
Yeah.
Right? That was always in our blood. Me from my background in sports, you from your background in sports, and then into actual competitive CrossFit. But if you think about the last few days that we've spent together, really most of the time, I don't think we've ever really focused a lot on the actual meat and potatoes of the programming of what we do in our gyms, right? Or we've talked a little bit about how you like EMOMs and how you like to try to give me a heart attack on the rower.
Right.
We've discussed that, right? And how I constantly beat you in push-ups,
Tabata
Tabata push-up, and strict muscle-ups. We won't talk about what I beat him in. Let's focus on what you're good at.
Right.
So, but our conversation is usually just focused around ways to improve our business, or things that you're doing well, I'm doing well, or people that we're around that are really successful in business.
Right.
I think that's an important message. Certainly it shows a lot of clout when it comes from somebody like you, who I think a lot of people just think is all about like gung-ho programming and staying in super fit shape and being competitive in your team because they're going to go to the games and all this kind of stuff. It always leads me back to the point of these affiliates who spend almost like, I'll say like more time and money, some more time, some more money. Sometimes their time is the money. Sometimes
Right.
they're losing money. They spend all this time and money on the competitive programming or a competition team, or wondering how you program and how you program for your team, and vice versa for me, when really all they're doing by doing that is, instead of really creating a competition team, they're just creating their team to become competitive with each other.
Right.
And that team could be their coaches, it could be their A-level members, and I say A-level like generally the ones that are super involved and always around. And then what happens, like we always talk about, is they lose the 99%. They created now a little bit of disassociation in some of their coaches, because you always have those that are more competitive than the others.
Right.
So now they create alliances amongst themselves. They've created this weird separation, and now everybody thinks it's all around which EMOM you programmed that day is the most important thing that's going on in the gym. And I think we are the reflection of the actual, we live the example, because here we are, we train together, we do all kinds of fitness, yet it's the last thing that's of any importance to us. It's the most important thing to keep us feeling good,
Right.
but it's like the last thing that's important for us to even waste time communicating with each other about.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot, right? Is like, here's the thing. Is I've been competing in CrossFit for years, you've been competing in CrossFit for years, but make no mistake about it. There's nothing more important to me in my affiliate than the community and the coaching that goes on.
For sure.
Period.
100%.
And what you also see, back to this whole affiliate thing, is you see some of these affiliate owners who are coaching, 6, 7, 8 classes a day, and then in the middle they're working out twice a day. And you ask themselves the question, like, they're working out like 4 hours a day, and they're coaching like 6 to 8 classes a day. They're hardworking people, like
That's right.
no ifs, ands, or buts. Then you start asking yourself the question, like, what's really moving the needle for you, brother? Like, you're working out 4 hours a day. Are you kind of like, not really necessarily? I think you could take that 4 hours, shrink it down to 1 hour session, probably get just as much intensity
That's
from
right.
it, and then you can spend that other 3 hours growing your business. Like, people get wrapped up, like they just think that if they're in the gym, they're doing something for the gym. The
Right.
reality is that if you're just sitting in the gym, twiddling your thumbs on Facebook, you need to get out of the gym and grow your business, or sit there and have a genuine brainstorming session with your coaches, right? Instead of sitting there lifting and jerking around, they
Right.
need to start actually having like set times. Okay, we're gonna meet at 5 o'clock. We want to go over, our goals and expectations for the next month,
Right.
and thinking about the business first. Oh, hey, I want to be a competitive CrossFitter.
Right. Well, that's because they've. Oh yeah, brother, you bring it on over.